As the Bears wrapped up their final practice before the bye week, there's a clear sense of momentum building in Chicago. Not just for the team, but for the entire fan base that's been riding this wave alongside them. Tuesday's practice was originally slated for Wednesday, but the staff decided to get it in a day early, likely to maximize rest ahead of the league-mandated Thursday to Sunday off period. So now, with players lifting on Wednesday and then scattering for the weekend, we got a snapshot of where things stand, and more importantly, where they might be going once the team returns. Let's talk about that energy around Hallis Hall right now. There's this growing belief that the Bears might actually be turning a corner. The wins over Dallas and Vegas weren't perfect by any stretch, but they showed a different kind of grit, a toughness we hadn't seen in a while. Caleb Williams is settling in, the defense is slowly getting healthier, and there's this internal confidence brewing that things could be different this time. That's the key phrase, this time, because we've been here before, right? Flashbacks to last season when the team hit the bye on high, only to unravel completely in the back half of the schedule. So the question becomes, can they avoid that collapse and actually build on what they've started? Injuries have obviously shaped a lot of the early season narrative. On Tuesday, a few names popped up at practice that brought some optimism. Cole Loveland, who missed last week with a hip issue, was back on the field. Word is, the injury was never considered serious, and he should be good to go after the break. But the big stories were Kyler Gordon and TJ Edwards, two defenders the Bears have desperately missed. TJ suited up briefly against Detroit before tweaking the hamstring again, while Kyler has been out since right before Week 1. On Tuesday, both were seen moving well. TJ even spoke to the media, saying he's feeling good and hungry to get back out there. Kyler took it a step further, saying if there were a game this week, he'd be playing. That's a great sign. Getting those two back could be a game changer. Kyler Gordon is such a versatile piece. You could drop him into coverage, bring him on a blitz, or line him up for run support. He's a Swiss Army knife, and honestly, the kind of guy who elevates the whole unit. Contrast that with someone like Nick McLeod, who's scrappy in coverage but avoids contact like it's a plague. Opposing offenses have taken notice. TJ, on the other hand, brings better instincts and physicality than Tremaine Edmonds, who's been hot and cold, especially against the run. Having Edwards back in the middle could stabilize the second level and allow Edmonds to play more in space, where he's more effective. Of course, not everyone was out there. Darnell Wright, the young tackle that's been the center of so much discussion lately, was not seen on the field Tuesday. Neither was Jonah Jackson or Grady Jarrett, who's been managing a knee injury. Now, in Jackson's case, it could have just been a vet rest day, but it's something to monitor. The bigger question, though, is Darnell Wright and what exactly the Bears plan to do with him, and when. There's been a lot of buzz this week about possibly flipping him to left tackle, especially with the ongoing issues at that spot. But that's not an experiment you can run if the guy isn't healthy enough to practice. Without those reps, you can't just throw him out there on game day and hope for the best. The report that surfaced earlier this week suggested the Bears were leaning toward benching Braxton Jones and going with Theo Benedict at left tackle after the bye. It was labeled a fluid situation, but part of that fluidity clearly hinges on Wright's status. If he can't get on the field soon, then you don't really have a decision to make. For now, it seems like Wright stays on the right side, assuming he's even available right after the break. The Bears didn't place him on short-term IR, which is usually a good indicator that they expect him back within a couple of weeks. But nothing's guaranteed. His availability could end up shaping the entire offensive line configuration, especially if they still want to explore a shakeup on the left side. And when Wright does return, is it a lock that he steps right back in? Could Aussie Trap-Hilo challenge him for snaps? That's something else to watch as the second half of the season unfolds. The Bears have a few position battles brewing, and this one on the offensive line might end up being the most impactful. Now shifting gears, let's talk quarterbacks. Caleb Williams addressed the media on Tuesday instead of his usual Wednesday slot, given the schedule changes, and he gave some solid insight into his mindset heading into the bye. When asked about his plans, he emphasized recovery. His words were, "I've got to work on my body. Make sure we're ready for this stretch run of 13 games." That's the reality of having an early bye. Once they're back, it's 13 straight weeks of grind. No breaks. So Williams said he'll take a day off to reset mentally, but he's not treating the bye as a vacation. That kind of discipline is what you want to hear from your quarterback. The early bye isn't ideal for a lot of teams, but Bears offensive coordinator Ben Johnson actually hinted during camp that they'd welcome the early pause. His reasoning? It gives them a 4-game sample to evaluate everything, what's working, what's not, and make the necessary tweaks before diving into the meat of the schedule. Now that they've clawed their way back to 2 wins and 2 losses, this feels like the perfect time to pause, reflect, and get things tuned up. And let's not forget how things went after the bye last season. There was hope, good vibes. They'd won 3 straight and looked poised to make a move. Then they came out flat against Washington and dropped 10 straight to end the year. So yeah, this team knows how quickly things can spiral. The focus now has to be on making sure that doesn't happen again. Williams talked about that too. He said last year's collapse is something they've learned from, and that this time around, they want to come out of the break firing. And with a healthy core returning and some confidence building, that's a realistic goal. What's been especially impressive about Caleb Williams so far is his performance in clutch moments. When the game's on the line, those gotta-have-it situations, the kid's heart rate drops. That's what he said on Tuesday, and it matches what we've seen on the field. He credited it to the work he's put into his craft over the years, saying that confidence has been earned, not given. And here's the thing. Whether you're all in on Caleb or you still have doubts, you can't deny his fourth quarter production. Statistically, it's been his best quarter. His accuracy spikes, his decision-making sharpens, and he tends to make big throws when it matters most. Last season alone, you could point to at least half a dozen games where he either led a go-ahead drive or tied things up late. Not all of those games ended in wins, but the point is he consistently gave them a chance. Green Bay, Minnesota, Washington, these were all one-score games where he stepped up late. Sometimes the defense blew it. Sometimes it was special teams. But more often than not, Caleb did his job in crunch time. That's not something you can teach. That's poise, that's confidence, and that's the kind of leadership you want in your franchise quarterback. So yeah, there's still room to grow. There are throws he wants back, reads he's still learning to make. But he's not turning the ball over at a high rate, and he's keeping his team in games. If you're completing 30 out of 35 attempts and missing on just a few, that's a solid outing in this league. He's showing signs of becoming that guy. The one who can carry a franchise when everything else is falling apart. And the Bears are going to need that, especially down the stretch when the games get tighter and the stakes get higher. Finally, the Bears hosted a handful of workouts on Tuesday. And while none of the names jump off the page, it's worth noting that the front office is still actively looking for help. 2 defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, and a guard got looks. That tells you exactly where their concerns lie. Depth in the trenches, and possibly shoring up some special teams units. We'll see if any of those guys stick around, maybe land on the practice squad, or earn a rotational spot. So that's where things stand heading into the bye. The Bears have weathered some early storms, stayed afloat, and now have a chance to regroup and make a real push. Whether they seize that opportunity is still to be seen, but for the first time in a long time, there's a sense that maybe, just maybe, they're building something real. Coming out of this bye week, the biggest focus for Chicago isn't just about who's returning from injury or which adjustments will be made schematically. It's about momentum, keeping alive, and not falling into the same traps that sunk the season last year. This team has already shown a different edge in the way they've responded to adversity, especially after that frustrating loss to Detroit. A lot of teams with a young quarterback and key injuries could have folded, but the Bears didn't. They came back, beat a good Dallas squad, and gutted out a win in Vegas. That kind of fight matters. You look at the locker room right now, and there's a different energy. It's not overconfidence. No one's pretending this team has it all figured out, but there's a quiet belief that they're on the right track. Players talk about accountability more. Coaches are being more transparent about adjustments. And there's an obvious effort to empower Caleb Williams, not just as the quarterback, but as a leader. That's a big shift from what we saw in previous years, where the quarterback situation was always a question mark. Caleb is the guy. That's not up for debate. And when you have that clarity, everything else tends to fall into place a little more naturally. There's still plenty to clean up, though. The offensive line continues to be a work in progress. And until Darnell Wright is fully healthy, it's hard to know exactly what the optimal configuration will be. If Theo Benedict holds down the left tackle spot and performs well, it could create a more stable foundation. But if struggles resurface, that might force the coaching staff to reevaluate things quickly. The right side of the line has shown flashes, especially in the run game, but inconsistency in pass protection has been an issue. Caleb has taken more hits than he should, and the protection breakdowns are happening at inopportune moments. That's why the return of guys like Jonah Jackson, who's been a veteran presence, becomes even more critical. Whether his absence at Tuesday's practice was precautionary or something more, his status matters a lot to the unit's cohesion. When this offensive line is at full strength, it's not elite, but it's capable. That's all you really need with a mobile quarterback like Caleb, a capable line that gives him just enough time to operate and trust his reads. The running game, too, could use a jolt. While the Bears have gotten solid production in spurts, there hasn't been that consistent dominance on the ground. Part of that has to do with the shuffle up front, but part of it also rests on game flow. When the Bears have gotten off to better starts, they've been able to lean on the run more and wear teams down. That's going to be key moving forward, especially in games where the weather could become a factor. Establishing the run early helps settle the offense and sets up the play-action game, which is where Caleb has looked especially comfortable. Another area that needs to level up is the red zone. There have been too many drives stalling inside the 20, leading to field goals instead of touchdowns. That's one of those metrics that separates good teams from great ones. The top teams in the league are efficient inside the red zone, and if the Bears want to take that next step, they need to finish more of those drives. That's where having a healthy Cole Loveland could help. He's been one of Caleb's security blankets in tight coverage, and his absence last week was noticeable. Assuming he's ready to roll after the break, that's one more weapon back in the fold. Defensively, the group is trending in the right direction. The front seven has started generating more pressure, even without bringing extra blitzers. That's a big shift from earlier in the year when it felt like quarterbacks had all day in the pocket. Now, they're starting to get home with four, and that's a recipe for sustained success. Adding Kyler Gordon back into the mix could help even more. He's a unique chess piece who can disrupt in the slot, blitz off the edge, and cover tight ends or running backs in space. When he's healthy, it just opens up so many more options for the defensive staff. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a shocking twist that has sent NFL fans into a frenzy, whispers around the league suggest that Lamar Jackson, the dynamic quarterback who has been the face of the Baltimore Ravens for years, is reportedly parting ways with the franchise. Sources close to the situation hint at a potential move that could shake the NFC North to its core. Jackson in a Chicago Bears uniform. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the rumor mills are spinning fast, and social media is already ablaze with speculation. Jackson, known for his electrifying mobility and playmaking ability, has been a Ravens icon since being drafted in 2018. He led Baltimore to a Super Bowl appearance and has consistently been among the league's top quarterbacks. Yet, behind the scenes, tensions over contract negotiations and team direction may have reached a tipping point. Insiders suggest that the Ravens' front office and Jackson's camp have struggled to align on long-term plans, fueling speculation that a split was inevitable. The Bears, historically seeking a franchise quarterback to return to glory, appear to be the most likely suitor. Chicago fans have long dreamed of pairing their storied franchise with a quarterback capable of turning games on a dime, and Jackson fits the bill perfectly. Imagining him orchestrating the Bears' offense at Soldier Field, weaving through defenders with his signature speed, is enough to ignite excitement and anxiety among fans and pundits alike. Industry insiders caution that these developments are still in the rumor stage, but the intensity of the chatter suggests something big could be on the horizon. Could Jackson's leap to Chicago signal a dramatic rebuilding phase for the Bears? Or is this just another week of NFL speculation blown out of proportion? For now, all eyes are on the league's power brokers, waiting to see if whispers will become reality. One thing is certain. The mere idea of Lamar Jackson swapping purple for navy and orange is enough to dominate sports headlines and ignite passionate debate. If the rumor proves true, the Bears may have just taken a gamble that could redefine the NFL landscape for years to come. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.